How's it going, everybody? My name is Cameron Claiborne, but some of you might know me better by my stage name or my radio name, King Simba. And the documentary you're about to witness now is called P.W.I, which means Predominantly White Institution, and it's tackling the subject of what African American students, such as myself, go through at predominantly white schools. Now, you'll hear 3 points of view in this documentary. You'll hear the side of the black man, you'll hear the side of the black woman, and you'll hear the side of the white teacher. Now, I just want to say, first and foremost, this documentary was not made to make anybody feel bad. We're just trying to make sure you know. We just want you to know how we feel. That's all. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, say your name, how old you are, your major, and where you're from.
All right, I'm Chris Blackman, Jr. I'm from New York. My major is arts and crafts, and I'm 22 years old.
All right, now, have you been going to predominantly white institutions all your life?
Yeah.
And what's it like as a black person at a P.W.I?
As a black person, it's like, you know, they're looking at you a certain way, and it's like, you know, you're the outsider, and it's like you're looking in, and it's like, you know, they don't know what that feels like, you know, the police brutality, all of that, and it's like, if it was switched, what would it feel like to them? You know?
Do you feel like, you said people don't understand you, so do you always feel like there's a target on your back at a P.W.I?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, that's why you always got to, you know, be aware of your surroundings at all times. It don't matter if it's in P.W.I or in another building or another school. It's always at, you know, your own surroundings. It's just the world, period. You know, you got to always be aware of your surroundings.
Are you currently enrolled in a P.W.I?
Mm-hmm.
So do you always feel like you have to push yourself harder because they look at you a certain way?
Yes, most definitely. I think so. Because they look at you this way, like, oh, look at this kid, you don't know anything. And you have to prove them wrong each and every day, because it's like, oh yeah, I got you. I can prove them wrong. I can prove them wrong every day. And it's like, I'm going to show you. I'm not just going to show you. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make you believe that I can. And it's like, I'm going to work harder every day. I'm going to show you why I'm the greatest, and I'm going to achieve all my goals before you can. And I'm smarter than you. I'm going to outdo you.
Can you please share some of the racist experiences that you've had growing up in the P.W.I? Be it from teachers, students. Well, let's do students first.
Okay. Well, students, it would be like a certain way where they give you the paper or something like that, and they'll say certain comments on the side. But when you see them hand it to a white person or something, they'll say like, hey, congratulations. It'll be like over exaggeration towards that side. It'll be like clapping, or hey, look what Katie, she got an A, or something like that. I'm just giving an example. And if it was the black person, it's like, he got an A, but nobody says the name. And you don't hear anything about that. And it's like, I just did the same thing she did. What the hell is the difference? But instead, this person gets 10 times the credit. You get less, but y'all did the same shit.
Can you explain any racism that you felt towards the staff?
Well, I felt like it was just a little, like they wanted to say the N all the time. Like, you looking at you, nigger, you know what I'm saying? Like, but as I'm, you know, walking away or something, you can just feel the vibes. Like, if you're in the room, you feel like a lonely dog. And it's like, you can just feel eyes staring at you every time. It's like, you know, what is this? It's like you're in a room with a bunch of eyes just beaming on you. Like, you can feel it. You can feel the heat just rising as you just sitting there. And it's like, I can feel the energy. I can feel it, you know.
Well, thank you for your time, Chris. Thank you so much. All right. Well, now that we know what it's like to be a black man at a P.W.I, let's see what black women have to say. All right, ma'am, can you please state your name, your major, and where you're from?
My name is Kiera Cowart. My major is Communication and Media Studies with a minor in Creative Writing, and I am from East Liverpool, Ohio.
East Liverpool, all right. So Have you gone to predominantly white institutions all your life?
I have.
What's it like?
It is very, I would say frustrating. It was very frustrating because they just didn't get me. For me, like, because I'm African American, they just didn't understand like my skin color or my hair. So I would try to fit in so hard. I would get relaxers to try to have my hair straight instead of having it natural like this. I would always get, obviously I would get made fun of for my skin color because I'm darker. So there were points when I would not go outside in the summertime until the sunset so that I didn't get super dark and people couldn't make fun of me. I just think that growing up in an all white school was just, it was different.
Growing up in a white institution, do you feel like as an African American and as a woman, you have to work twice as hard?
Yes.
Do you feel that extra pressure?
Yes.
Can you elaborate?
So definitely, I felt like I played sports a lot growing up. So I felt like I had, and not just with sports, with like academically wise, I just felt like I had to really shine more so that I would be noticed more. Growing up, with guys didn't find black women attractive where I went to school because they were all for the white girls, which is no offense, but it made me, I had kind of low self-esteem for a long time until I got into college and there were different people that I met, and that just made me kind of come out of my shell that I should have came out of a long time ago, so.
And have you felt any racism from the white students growing up in a predominantly white institution?
Oh, definitely. There were times when I would be called out of my name, racial slurs and all that. But you can't let it get to you because it's what they want. So eventually you have to build some kind of resistance to the word, So, growing up all white, when people would get upset, they just, boom, there's that word. And they would expect me to be mad, but I would just be looking at them because they would be looking stupid because it didn't affect me. So,
have you felt any racism from the teachers or staff?
Not really. I feel like all the teachers and staff were they were fair. I wouldn't say that I felt any different. Growing up, I think I had 3 black teachers my whole life, and the rest were white. So, I will say one time I was in a teacher's class and she misplaced her ring that she had on her finger, and I was in a class, this was the one class I had a lot of black people in, actually. And it was back when I was in 8th grade. It was probably all the black people in my class, which was like 8. And so we were all in the class and she misplaced her ring, so she called all of the black students up to the principal's office and was blaming us for it. And so I was sitting there, I'm like, I didn't take your ring, I didn't take your ring. My friends are like, we didn't take your ring. Maybe a couple days later, it's in her desk. So she pulled it out and was looking through her desk, and it was in her desk, and she had to tell us, and she had to give us an apology. So
Wow.
Now that I think about it, that did happen. It was me, my black friends, and you got that one white friend that's always in the black group. So she was mixed in there too, so yeah.
Being an African American at a predominantly white institution, do you feel like there's always a target on your back in the sense that, people are kind of hoping you mess up or expecting a certain outcome for your life?
I do feel like people expect a certain outcome from my life that I feel like they didn't expect me to get this far because growing up, in a predominantly white school, all the black people were expected to be a certain way. They grouped us all into one. So I think that they didn't expect us to get as far as we are. So I'm in college, graduating in the fall. My cousin India goes to WVU and she's majored in biochemical engineering. And my friend Rayana goes to South Carolina, some school in South Carolina where she's gonna be a vet. She graduates in the spring. I have a friend at Penn State who is graduating this spring for accounting. You know what I mean? So I don't think that they expected us to get as far as we are, but in reality, we're gonna keep growing, so.
All right, thank you very much for your time. All right. Well, now that we know how the students feel about being at a P.W.I, there's still one more point of view that's needed, and that's the point of view of the person we're talking about in this documentary, the white teacher. All right, sir, can you please state your name and what you do here at the University of Akron?
My name is Chris Kepler. I'm an assistant professor of practice, manager at WZIP, and internship coordinator.
Well, thank you very much. And so, as you know, this documentary is about black students in predominantly white institutions, aka PWIs. So, as a white teacher, I wanted to know what your experience was like teaching black students, including me.
Well, I'm not sure that there's really a way to describe that, just because of the way I view things, and the way I'm sure most people view things here. I certainly hope. Where I'm really not looking at color. I don't know that there's a difference to me teaching white students versus black students.
So, do you feel like you have to approach a black student differently than you would a white student
No.
at all?
No, I really don't. I think every student is going to have their own individual needs. I don't know how many of those needs are going to be related to race. Maybe a lot of them are. I'm just completely unaware. But I mean, it's just not the way I look at it. I mean, whatever it is that you're seeking in your education, whatever kind of special assistance you might want, or something like that, to me, unless you tell me otherwise, it has nothing to do with whether you're black or white. I think that I have heard about it. I actually sat through a really interesting lecture. It's been a few years ago, and it had to do with, like, I can't think of the term that they used, but it was like minor, unintentional forms of racist behavior. And they used, and it was at the university, it was a lecture at the university for, well, really for anybody. It was mostly faculty and staff members who attended.
Do you remember who gave this lecture?
I don't. I'll see if I can look some up for you. I don't know. It wasn't somebody from here. It was from some other institution or whatever. But one of the examples that I never forgot that they gave, and I thought to myself, I hadn't been teaching quite as long as now, and I was only part-time teaching. And I thought to myself, gosh, I wonder if I've ever done anything like that. I don't think I have. But what the situation was, this guy was saying how in a classroom situation, maybe there's a question, a discussion, something like that, and you, Cam, you raise your hand and you give an answer, and this professor falls all over you. Like it's, like, oh, but that was so good. I'm so glad you brought that up, and like overdoes it. And it can be interpreted as a subtle way of saying, I'm really surprised that the black kid had something so profound to say. And that might not be what they meant. They're overcompensating and making assumptions. They're not trying to be racist. It's not out of hate, yet it still isn't right. It still makes that student feel like, even though the intention was to make them feel good, the actual takeaway that they have sometimes is, this person's patronizing me. They think that because I'm black, I don't have an intelligent thought. You know what I mean? And yeah, I don't think I've ever done anything like that. But I thought it was a really interesting, because I just never thought of it, I actually found, here's something in my own experience, it has nothing to do with that so much, but I can remember earlier on in like public speaking classes, and I used to teach a class called voice training for media. And I didn't really, I couldn't tell you off the time how many students were black versus white. I don't count. But I did, I guess, make almost like a mental note to myself one time. It seemed like some of the black students, I felt, especially women, were the hardest working in my classes. Not because I was demanding anything. I mean, my expectations were what they were. The syllabus was the same for everybody. But I felt like some students worked much harder than others. And I wondered why.
Would you like to know why?
Huh?
Would you like to know why? Because I'll tell you right now.
Well, I'll tell you what I was wondering was if maybe whoever it was, their moms, I suspect, might have just said, listen, you're a black woman going to a white school. You already have, challenges just because of that. And you have to work 3 times as hard just to get to the same place. And I have a feeling, and some of that was based on conversation, I just wondered if maybe a lot of people, a lot of families had those types of discussions, and so they were pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed much harder because they couldn't make assumptions. They didn't have anything that they could take for granted. And so they did bust their butt to make sure that they were successful.
All right, thank you very much.
You were going to tell me that?
That is exactly what I was going to say.
I kind of thought.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Kepler.
All right, you've been helping me out all this week.
Well, there you have it. 3 people, 1 school, same point of view. I just want to say thank you all for participating in the viewing of this documentary, and I would like to give a special shout out to the people who helped me make this documentary, aka the people I interviewed. And once again, this documentary was not made to make anybody feel bad. We don't want you to feel bad. We just want you to know. Thank you very much for watching.